Hello, and welcome aboard to this episode of the We Are Reading One Piece podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to following the entire story of One Piece from beginning to end as we focus on one volume each episode. We keep the discussion spoiler-free for new fans of the series, so this is the perfect place to follow along, whether you're new to the series or just want to revisit the world of One Piece with us. This week, we will be covering Volume 53, Natural Born King, which covers chapters 513 through 522. My name is Joel, and I'll be your host. And joining me today, we have Evan.
What's up?
And we have Cody.
Volume cover.
Sean may be joining us for the later half of the episode. We'll see. But for right now, we are going to dive right in. And it's been a little bit inconsistent with the schedule, but we'll see what we can do going forward and try to hopefully make things a little smoother. But and we appreciate your patience with the time between episodes. But yeah, so this is an exciting place to dive in. I know we've been excited to talk about this one here.
I've been waiting.
So since it's been a little while, how about a little recap from where we left off? Chaos ensued following Luffy's punch on a celestial dragon. With the help of Rayleigh, former first mate of the Roger Pirates, they're able to rescue Kami from the auction hall. Luffy, Law, and Kid took on the Navy forces surrounding the auction hall and escaped. The Strats met up at Shaki's bar and learned more details about the history of the Roger Pirates. Rayleigh offered to coat the Thousand Sunny on the house, though it would take him 3 days to complete, so he suggested they lie low for now. Meanwhile, Admiral Kizaru arrived on Sabaody and fought the other supernovas until Science Officer Sentomaru was able to make contact with him on his transponder signal. He reminded the Admiral that their priority would be the capture of the Straw Hats. Unfortunately, as the Strats tried to keep the low profile, they were attacked by pacifistas. As they struggled to defeat the machines, things got worse when Sentomaru showed up as well as Kizaru. The Strats were overwhelmed by the enemy forces. Before Kizaru could kill Zoro, Rayleigh showed up to fight off the Admiral. All the Strats could do was run. It was no use as the real Kuma showed up, making Zoro disappear in an instant.
It wasn't until you mentioned the punch on Charlos that I realized just how much happened in that volume between then and because this is probably best served for last episode, but hindsight, it goes so fast that you don't realize just how much happens in Sabaody. Holy wow.
Yeah, it was really like the incident that was like it just set off like this chain of events and just made things go crazy.
Really?
But now we're seeing the consequences of that action, so.
Yeah, action packed. And a star-studded cast too right now. There's so many big names here.
All right, so how about we kick things off with the next part of the cover story? CP9's Independent Report, Volume 21, Excessive Justice. Lucci brutally beats the captain of the Candy Pirates in the street.
This goes hard.
Yeah.
Excessive justice.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can see, like, the reactions of the people around, like, horrified at Lucci and just, like, how badly he beat this guy up.
I vibe with the dude, like, in the cool vest, going like, like, definitely how I reacted. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's, like, this other woman who's, like, covering, the little girl's face who's, like, crying. She's like, don't look, honey.
Brutal. They did want the Candy Pirates gone, though. The Candy Pirates were not good people, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of showed up and, like, they were here to, like, mess up the town.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't think they expected, like, this. All right, so, that's Lucci for you. Okay, let's move on to chapter 513, Beyond Rescue. As the Straw Hats try to process what happened to Zoro, they continue to be attacked by the pacifistas. Kuma prevents one from blasting a beam, telling it not to interfere to Sentomaru's confusion. As the Straw Hats try to escape, Kuma begins making them disappear one at a time, while Rayleigh holds off Kizaru. During their standstill, Kuma comes up to Rayleigh and whispers something in his ear. In return, Rayleigh seems skeptical that he is the real Kuma. Kuma makes all the strats disappear until only Luffy is left. Luffy breaks down to tears that he was unable to save a single member of his crew. Kuma states Luffy will never see him again. Then he makes Luffy disappear.
This is such an intense chapter.
Yeah. So, Evan, this is your first time experiencing this. So, like, what was going through your head as like this was unfolding?
Yeah, this was hard to watch. It was like gut punch after gut punch as the pacifistas start, or was Kuma starts overpowering the Straw Hats. And it's not like the Straw Hats are holding back either. Like they're, pulling no punches and going all out and still just getting handled by Kuma, who is making them vanish on spot, which is like mortifying, honestly. And Luffy just watching all of this happen and putting that burden on himself. Like this chapter ends with him saying like, I couldn't save them. I wasn't strong enough. It's just like I said, gut punch after gut punch this whole chapter.
Yeah.
And the nugget you brought up was super interesting. Kuma's remark to Raleigh as he interrupts the lightsaber battle that they're having to basically say like, or imply that he's working outside of the government and endangering his position by doing what he's doing.
Interesting.
That's how I interpreted it.
Okay. Yeah, we don't know exactly what he says here. He says something and Rayleigh reacts, and whatever he says to Rayleigh implies that he's the real Kuma. But yeah, what exactly that means is very suspicious. And it's also odd that we saw like Kuma also kind of like going against the other pacifistas. It's like he was like doing something that like he seems to maybe like have his like own agenda. But it's like unclear exactly what his motives are or like what he's doing, because he also kind of defied the world government's orders previously when they told him to capture Luffy, and he kind of made his own judgment call about how to handle that situation. So he didn't do what he was ordered to do. So yeah, it seems like Kuma is kind of like a wild card at this point. We don't exactly know what his deal is or exactly like what he's trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
But what he does do is essentially decimate the Straw Hats to this point.
Single-handedly.
Like this is really devastating.
Literally. Yeah.
Cody?
Yeah, when he steps in, he says, I'm endangering my position by doing this.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe that his intentions could be outside of his government orders. Which would also contradict would also explain his going against the pacifistas, who are like, programmed. I mean, not that Kuma's also a cyborg, but like he seems to have more free will than these other pacifistas who just seem to be working on the government orders. And so his interaction with them, and then this statement, he says it matters. Oh, in matters that don't involve the government, I'm not required to cooperate with the Navy.
Yeah, because he's like, I'm not going to answer your questions.
Yeah.
Cody?
He's like, this doesn't regard you.
And I guess that to me seems very remarkable given the remark, I believe Moria said, like, oh, you're the government's dog. You just do whatever they want. What that means, who knows? But it just seems like a very telling circumstance that y'all highlighted to me just now. But damn, dude. I'm going to try and collect myself here, because I think that if there's one chapter I've cried at in this series more than anything, it is this one. I distinctly remember I was about to get out. I was in 8th grade at my dad's house, just realizing, oh, hey, the new chapter's up, and just going on the bus, like wiping tears from my face. It's so beautifully done because it's such a great contrast from this giant victory they had in Ennie's lobby, where they save Robin. The crew is unified. They meet Brooke, who's there for a whole week before this shit happens. And yeah, I think Kuma's just so mysterious right now. Like we have some pieces to what he's doing, but still, it's like, what is he doing and why? Like, what the hell? Um, and it also ties back into what Moria said at Thriller Bark about saying, you don't know what's going to happen next. You're going to lose everyone.
Yeah.
The very quick for that other shoe to drop, and it was yeah. I've got more like little thoughts, but for now, that's like my broad impression of this chapter.
Hey, that's a good point. Because Moria was essentially like you're not ready for this world. Like, yeah. So that's a really good tie back. Yeah.
And on top of that, you see how hard the crew is trying to defeat their opponent here, and like especially you see the desperation in Luffy, who just isn't quick enough to stop him here, and he's just slowly seeing his crew disappear one by one. But yeah, I'm with you, Cody. Like I was just losing it. I was like, it was like page after page after page, like gut punch after gut punch after gut punch, just seeing like the crew slowly disappear, and then with Robin's disappearance, like she's like turning to Luffy and saying Luffy's name as he's poofing her. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It got to me. It was good.
And the fact that Nami's last words to her, "Help me," like direct callback to Arlong Park, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh God.
Yeah, I distinctly remember reading through this part for the first time and just being like devastated. The crew is fighting so hard to escape. Like they already had like a hard time because I think they probably took down 3 pacifists at this point, and they're having a hard time taking on these pacifists. Like one is hard enough, and they had to take down like 3 of them, but and then they also have to now take on the Admiral, Sentomar, and all these other pacifists, and now one of the 7 warlords of the sea. But like they're clearly like in over their heads. And Luffy recognizes that, and he makes the call to retreat. Like he's not even trying to like fight back. It's rare that Luffy has to step down and be like, "We're not fighting." Like normally Luffy's ready to go, but Luffy recognizes that this is a fight they're not going to win. But even with that, like the escape is futile because they can't get away. They're outnumbered and outmatched, and Kuma is just able to systematically take them down like one by one.
I think that point just like makes it even sadder because so much of Luffy's journey has been, okay, how can I be a good captain?
Yeah.
How can I make the smart decision in a big conflict? But at this point, it doesn't matter because he and they are just not strong enough.
Yeah.
Luffy can't do anything against him. And he's not even like a warlord, an admiral, any of these like big powers that have been hyped. Like in a sense, like he's not just some dude, like in like the broad scale of the world, he's just some dude. And Luffy still can't touch him.
I wanted to see, do they like point out exactly what he's doing here? Does he actually mention what he's doing? Or is it just Luffy remarking that it's weird that he can hit him?
I think it's just that he can't hit him, but let me double check.
Or maybe was it last volume?
It might have been more of a last volume.
Maybe last volume, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then even with Rayleigh here, like Rayleigh can pretty much only hold off Kizaru. I mean, I say like only, but I mean that's impressive. You can handle the Admiral at all. But I mean, his presence here isn't enough to protect the rest of the strats because he can only handle Kizaru right now. Like Kizaru's that formidable, so like he's doing what he can, but he can't stop what's happening here. And then Chopper got desperate and decided to eat the 3 rumble balls to go into like monster form. I mean, that's another desperate move. The fact that he's willing to resort to that, like, because like again, like what can you do at this point? He's like they're just trying everything they can, no matter like how useless it seems. But like it's just like a desperate move after desperate move to try to get control of the situation. All right. So anything else on this one?
I'm gonna continue to peddle my my Sanji Usopp friendship agenda. Because of course Sanji is the one who tries to sacrifice himself to save someone else. But it's Usopp in particular. Those they understand each other, and I just think it's. I mean, I'm devastated, but also like, wholesome, but also this sucks.
Yeah, it wasn't like they weren't like willing to leave each other behind.
What was
Like
that?
Sanji's like they weren't like willing to leave each other behind. It was like Sanji was like falling. He's like telling Usopp to go, and Usopp's like, "No, I'm not leaving you."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a devastating chapter. And Oda even has like this little outro, like the day the Straw Hats, led by Monkey D. Luffy, were eradicated.
Yeah.
Brutal. Ugh. Like if your hope wasn't already squashed, like
Mm-hmm.
boom.
Whew, yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty much how Sabo Odi ends. There's others like a little bit more, but yeah, that's really gonna wrap up the main part of Sabo Odi. All right, you good to move on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. CP9's Independent Report Volume 22. We can't stay in this town any longer. After making a scene, CP9 decides it's time to move on from St. Poplar. Okay. I guess yeah, Ushi's all better. Time to go.
Very well composed shot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if we're supposed to be like rooting for them now.
I think that's valid.
Like I'm not sure. Like I'm not sure what because this I don't know. This feels a little bit like maybe the end of this. Is this the end of this?
No,
Do we get
there's
more
more.
of this story? Oh, we do get more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious if this is Oda's attempt at like a redemption arc for CP9.
I don't know. If it is, I feel like it's not going so well.
Yeah, I'm not invested yet.
I feel like in the world of One Piece, there's a lot of gray because I mean our main protagonists are outlaws and pirates. I mean they do good things, but they're also operating outside the law. They sometimes do like morally questionable things and like, but like we know they're good people, but at the same time, like, they are also doing pirate things. So
This is true.
yeah. All right, but let's move on to the next chapter. Chapter 514, Body Parasite Mushrooms. The Rosy Life Riders notice the Straw Hats are late, but decide they will defend the ship until the coding specialist arrives. Sharia is furious that her family's attackers haven't been captured yet. Meanwhile, Luffy finds himself flying through the air for several days, unable to stop himself until he lands in the jungle on an island, safely stopping above the ground as a paw-shaped crater forms. Luffy remembers he has Rayleigh's Fever card and tries to follow it until he comes up to the wall of a cliff. Being in the jungle reminds him of how his grandpa left him in one as a kid, but he decides to try out different mushrooms to think about something else. Later, 3 warrior women, Marguerite, Sweet Pea, and Aphalandra, find him on the ground, covered in mushrooms, and bring him back to the village, unaware that he's actually a man. After burning all the mushrooms off, they decide to give him a bath and notice what they thought was a mushroom, but it won't come off. Grandy Neo notices the commotion and is shocked to see they found a man. Luffy had landed on Amazon Lily, where men are forbidden. Any man who sets foot on this island is put to death. Yeah, so there's a little bit of like last minute things to wrap up for Sabo Odi. But yeah, now we are moving on to a new island following where Luffy went.
So that's Kuma's ability.
Yeah, so this does give us more context for what's been happening.
Which is ironic because he says, like, if you could go for a vacation anywhere, where would you go? Isn't that what he says?
Mhm.
Yeah. He didn't
I think
ask
there's a
Luffy,
good
though.
chance that Sanji's on this island.
Well, did he
Or he's
only
gonna
ask
be
Zoro?
really jealous when he hears this story from Luffy.
Yeah. So at first, this seems to be totally different from Kuma's powers, but I think what's actually happening is he's deflecting them so fast that it looks like they just disappear. Because it's like almost instantaneous. So I don't think he's actually teleporting anybody. I think he's just hitting them, deflecting them so fast that it looks like they disappear, but he just sends them flying in a direction.
For days.
Yeah. That's how long it takes.
That's insane.
But at least he gave them GPS. Because Luffy's like, I hope I don't fall in the water over here.
Yeah, right?
And he's sleeping in midair.
We've seen the world map. Like, that's pretty fortunate for Luffy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of water. Yeah, and then it even comes with like a little landing pad like when he lands.
I think that's a cool touch.
Yeah.
The big paw print that's left is a cool touch.
Yeah, so thoughts on this one?
I mean, I thought this was a pretty fun turn of events. Like, all of a sudden, Luffy's halfway around the world, seemingly. Not the person we want to have lost in the wilderness. Besides maybe Zoro. But thankfully, he has the wit to remember that he's got the Weaver cards, and he's using that to affect. But then Anand falls to his kryptonite, which is eating
everything in sight.
Oh man. And then we're met by these like Amazonian female warriors on an island of all women.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of a fun world to be in. I'm enjoying it. It's pretty funny, like having Luffy being the only man and the shenanigans that entail. I think are pretty innocent and funny.
I think the joke is sold pretty well, honestly.
I agree.
About the mushroom thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this. I think it works. But yeah, I think it's just like a little awkward. But like they're just like not familiar with the anatomy of men. But yeah, it just he happens to find mushrooms, and I guess like it works in to kind of propel this part forward.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredibly awkward. It's very awkward. Like I agree with you there, but
it would be. That situation would be pretty awkward.
It would be incredible, yeah. No, I think I was actually kind of like wrestling with myself as like how does this look right now? Because like I think, sorry, I'm just getting my notes real quick. Like Oda's humor can like sometimes be like, sometimes it doesn't quite hold up. For me, I guess the fact that that there's no ill intent from any side of it, and that it's really just like a misunderstanding. Yeah. I think I'm like, okay, it's still funny. It's still a silly time.
Yeah.
I agree. I think throughout this whole little arc that Oda handles it like pretty tastefully, and it's like pretty innocent and funny most of the time. Now the fact that like half of these women are like bathing naked half the time, that probably could have been that aged less well, but I think everything else is pretty innocent and funny.
Yeah, I'm like, oh hey, Oda finally like has like more than 2 body types for women. Great. And it's like, okay, but like we take what we can.
I know,
you know?
right? I was having that
We
same
take what we
thought.
can.
Like, we always talk about how all of Oda's women look exactly the same, and here we have like an entire society of women who all look different. So,
which I do think is really cool.
Yeah,
sure.
It is refreshing, and
Yeah.
like there's a lot of like unique designs and character designs that are really refreshing here. Yeah, so I think a good job there for Oda.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, to me that I think that's just one of the strengths of One Piece is like the various character designs, because there's so many drastically different looking characters, and it's just like so fun, and like he's very creative with a lot of character designs. You know, some not as much, but like for the most part, I would say like most of the characters are like unique, designs.
Yeah. Yeah, this whole tribe and this whole city and society have a very cool design. My first impression was like the like even the snake, because it's all like women and snake
Mm.
themed. So that was kind of like where my mind first went, as like
Yeah,
a biblical reference.
yeah,
That one, see, I was thinking more Greek Amazonian than like Chinese, the architecture. The biblical
Hmm.
reference was totally lost on me. Thank you for that.
yeah. It could
No,
be like a mix of, yeah,
the Japanese architecture though in the city is so cool.
Mhm.
yeah.
We'll get there.
But yeah, we are in this situation though. We don't get this very often where Luffy feels like he's on his own, because for most, like almost the entire series, Luffy's been with people. Like he didn't have like a lack of crew for very long. Even like right from the beginning, he made a friend in Kobe. You know, they tagged along for a little while, and then they got Zoro. So like Luffy's been like with people traveling with him for most of the series. And then when he was on his own, it didn't go so well because he got caught in a whirlpool. His boat, his boat went down. He only survived by going to the barrel. So that was Luffy on his own. And now we're back with Luffy on his own. So we'll see how it pans out for him.
Yep. And just one
Yeah.
chapter, having either Nami or Chopper would have been a huge boon that he just can't do anything.
Yeah.
A mountain, I don't know how to get around that. I'm screwed.
Or I need
This
to eat
mushroom's
something.
fine. Like,
We're Sanji,
yeah.
Yeah. Luffy's life is left in the hands of someone else yet again, or complete strangers. Like, I mean, if he wasn't found in the woods, those mushrooms probably would have killed him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sanji's gonna be so jealous.
Yeah, this is like literally Sanji's dream right here.
Yep.
But yeah, anything else for this one?
Not really, no.
Good.
Okay, moving on to CP9's Independent Report, Volume 23. A flower is a gift that shines bright. A young girl gives Cauliflower a flower.
Redemption arc.
Very sweet.
I found myself just like puzzled by the fact that Fukuro, Kumadori, and Jabba are freaking out.
Yeah, I was just.
And I'm like, is it because they expect any act of kindness to be a sneak attack because that's been their entire life?
That's kind of sense I'm getting too. It's like they don't trust something that, like, yeah, it seems kind of weird.
And I'm like,
it's like the most innocent thing in the world, and they're having that reaction to it.
And I don't want to sympathize with them, but like, damn it, Oda.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
they have some
A little bit.
trauma. But yeah, very very nice of that little girl. Okay, let's move on to chapter 515, Adventure on the Island of Women. Luffy is put in prison until the women can decide what to do with him. Curious, they observe him as they have never seen a man before. Marguerite had made him new clothes to try to match his previous clothes, just with more flowers. Unhappy with the flowers, he shouts that he's a man, which causes the warriors to go on guard and ready their bows. They decide they should kill him before the Snake Princess returns. He smashes through the roof and runs away, taking Marguerite with him. In the jungle, Marguerite gets defensive. Luffy explains he just wants to express his gratitude and find his crew. He tells her he's a pirate, to which she explains the Empress, Boa Hancock, is a pirate as well. It's at this time that the women in the village spot Boa Hancock's ship returning. leaving them with little time left to capture the escaped man. Okay. Yeah, so what are your thoughts on the chapter?
I mean, to pick up right where we left off last chapter, I think that this world is so cool, and we really get like a good taste of it throughout this chapter. Kind of like the culture that of this island and the architecture and all the fashion and choices of weapons too. They have like this very like Amazonian like bows and arrows. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Luffy's not met with open arms though.
Yeah, so I feel like you get the sense that they, because they are warrior women, like you get the sense that they're tough and they can handle themselves. So I really like that. I mean, it is based on like Amazon warriors, but like I like that we get Oda's interpretation of that in the world of One Piece.
Mhm.
So I think it's a fun take on that and seeing this version of it.
Yeah, definitely. They seem to live by a creed, and that creed involves no men allowed,
Yeah. It's very strict.
which Luffy is in strict violation of.
Yeah, so they're like, all right, well, while we decide what to do with him, let's put him in prison. And they're like very curious about this man, like what's a man like? So like they think everything that Luffy does indicates what all men do because this is their only experience like exposure to men.
Yeah. Do all men stretch like that?
We just got
I
fat.
love.
Can all men just
I
like
love-
get really fat whenever they want?
It was like, yeah, sure.
Yep. I love the one girl who's like taking notes on everything and like writing everything down.
Yeah. She's my favorite.
So funny.
I also love that their bows are just snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much
it's
of their
pretty cool.
fashion is snakes.
Yep.
It's what's in this season. Presumably
Loves a
every
strong team.
season here.
It also seems like a lot of these women have a living snake on their person at all times. a lot of them seem to have like a pet snake.
Yeah. It's part of the way of life.
Mhm.
Actually, I didn't realize just how many snakes there are like all over the place. But yeah, you're right. It's like everyone has a snake on their shoulder.
Yep. The architecture snakes. Even the giant rock formation of the island has got snakes on it. Like
Yeah. Yeah, and there's another little tidbit on that too. I'll mention later when we get the name of that.
cool. Yeah, this was a fun little chapter. So like a little bit of world building and kind of an introduction to this society of women warriors. And Luffy gets his Viva card back.
Which is very important.
Very important.
And he also gets some clothes, which I think he probably needed some. But then like his reaction to the flowers, like that panel that Oda drew. He was like so disappointed.
I think it's a good look. I like Marguerite quite a bit actually. She's cool.
I do too. She's very likable. Yeah, she strikes me as a person who is sensible and wants to do the right thing. But I think she's a little conflicted as well because she's trying to do the right thing, but she's not entirely sure what that is in this case because she hasn't really experienced the situation before. Yeah, because they have like a little moment when they're like in the jungle together after Luffy kidnaps her. Just because like I need your help, not because like I'm trying to like do anything bad, but he's just like like I'm just trying to not like get killed. But yeah, Marguerite's like, I don't know if I should kill you, like do I take you back or like do I help you?
Yeah. And so it's like, this is my worldview, this is what I do, that's the right thing within that. But there is that whole I'm not quite open but like curious about like what else is out there, and which I think is just a very I think is a mindset that's just very compatible with meeting Luffy.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting, like talking about this character, and I agree. I think she's a really likable character and kind of anchors Luffy to this world or this situation that they're in. And like thinking back, I feel like Oda kind of has a tendency to have a like female character in each arc that's kind of like I said, but like an anchor or kind of like a guide or like going back um to I mean like literally name an arc, and I feel like there's like a female character that's introduced at the beginning and kind of is just like a constant throughout the arc. um I don't know which way you want to go for going like back in order. But like Water 7 would be um well, we had Kami in like the last arc, and
Mhm.
then um in Water 7 I think it would be
Kokoro.
the Kokoro. Yeah, Kokoro. And then moving, and then like, I don't know, we have like, Konus and Vivi
Hmm.
and
We have
Even
Lola too.
Nami.
literally pick an arc. Yeah. Or what was the dish lady in, yeah, Lola too, but like,
Oh, Sindri, yeah.
Sindri and Thriller Bark. I don't know.
Hmm.
I feel like there's kind of a theme there. And like, even in this one, Marguerite gets like she gets her full page intro, which we don't get for any of the other Amazonians.
Hmm.
Yeah, so she feels like a little bit more. There's like more of a focus on her character here. She's
Yeah.
got like a bit of a bigger role than maybe some of the other characters here.
Yep. And she seems to take a liking to Luffy here a little bit, unlike everyone else.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too. Is that she seems to like Luffy. She's probably like, I shouldn't like him, and I don't really understand him fully, but there's something about him that I do like. And I think that's also kind of a credit to Luffy. I think that's just an effect he has on people. Is he has like this essence or this like aura where he can like sway people to his side.
Yep.
I feel like he connects to people really really easily, and yeah, I think that's just an important trait for Luffy, and I think that's kind of the case here.
Yep. It's really hard to not like Luffy.
Mhm.
And there's like
Yeah.
this little moment where like he laughs. He's like, "Gosh, seems like all he did is thank you. Is there anything I can do for you?" Like he just wants to like return the favor because he feels like he owes her
Right.
for like the help that she's been giving him.
Mhm.
And going back to the snake theme, so they have their pirate empress, the snake princess, Boa Hancock,
Mm.
who is now on the way back. So she probably won't react too kindly to a man being on the island.
Mm-mm.
Not good.
Nope. Not a vibe.
Speaking of which, are you guys good to move on to the next chapter?
Most
I'm
def.
good.
Okay, chapter 516, Pirate Empress Boa Hancock. Luffy asks Marguerite if he can have a ship to go find his crew, but she tells him a ship would do him no good as they are in the calm belt, which prevents regular people from finding this island. Hancock has the only ship on the island, which can safely travel the calm belt thanks to her 2 large Yuta snakes that Sea Kings won't attack. After Luffy fails to build a raft, Marguerite saves him from drowning, but has second thoughts and decides she shouldn't let him leave. She shoots arrows that are so powerful that they can break stone, as Luffy dodges them. She is confused that Luffy doesn't realize they are infused with haki. The rest of the women catch up and warn that Hancock is returning. Out at sea, Vice Admiral Mamanga had to fight off Sea Kings while waiting for Hancock to come out and speak from her neighboring ship. She has been summoned to attend the execution of Ace and had sent a message stating that she would comply. Now that the Navy has arrived, her crew told the Vice Admiral that she won't be coming out. He warns that refusal would result in losing her title as one of the warlords. Hancock appears, telling that her message was a lie, and she'll be taking their cargo and treasure, as well as keeping her title. The Navy soldiers begin to comply without question, because she is beautiful. She then turns all the men to stone, except Omanga, who is able to withstand her powers by stabbing his own hand. He tells her that Ace will be executed in 1 week. He'll give her 2 days to change her mind, and will wait here. If she does not show, the treaty will be nullified. He tells him to do as he wishes and orders her crew to head back to Amazon Lily. All right. Cody?
we get one of the most badass, most beautiful, smartest, coolest under pressure characters in this entire series, Vice Admiral Momonga.
Yep.
The Chad of all Chads. No, I'm kidding. Hancock's pretty fucking cool. But like I had to give props to the homie Momonga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
He was
casually
quick.
killing Sea Kings over here while waiting for Bo Hancock to show up.
My hand, not a
Amazing.
problem. I have a job to do.
Yeah. So we are now introduced to one of the last warlords that we haven't seen yet.
And what an introduction it is. This is like one of the coolest appearances. I mean, she's standing on the head of a giant sea serpent with like her posse and like this like awesome snake and a leopard and a falcon. Like it was just like a pretty badass sup.
She's so cool.
So cool.
Yeah. So you get the sense that she is a very strong, independent woman.
Oh yeah.
But like she's someone you can tell just gets her way.
Yes. There's definitely a certain amount of entitlement in her persona.
Yeah. But it seems like she can back it up.
Yeah, powerful. I mean, she turns everyone to stone, which is such a cool scene.
Like, I mean, even before that, like she gives orders to the Navy men and they just comply. But like they like subconsciously don't like realize why they're doing it at first. They're just like, whatever she says, sure, let's do it. So yeah, she's just like swaying these people like with her presence.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think she really makes a statement with her first appearance here.
She also kicks the kitten the minute she comes out. I'm like, oh man, I was like, she's ruthless. Does not matter. She gets what she wants.
Yeah, for me, that goes a little too far. Like I'm I have like a strong like connection to cats. So this is for me. It's definitely demerit for Bo Hancock. Otherwise, like I love like her portrayal here. Yeah, that was just like a step too far.
I feel like it's supposed to be like, but like still, it's like, man,
Yeah.
did you have to order? I'm like, I guess.
Yeah. It was just hard to watch.
Sympathetic.
Yeah. Try and build her persona, I think.
But yeah, I mean, it does make the point where it's like she's like, I can do anything, and people are gonna forgive me because I'm beautiful. Also carrying on with the animal theme for these 7 warlords. So now we have Snake.
Yep.
We have all 7 names now, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we haven't like seen as Jinbei.
Yeah, which was one of the first ones that were mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, interesting.
It's coming together.
It really is.
And speaking of coming together, I feel like my first conceived idea of like the women and the snakes being like a biblical reference, I feel like here we definitely get more of a Greek mythology reference with the Gorgon sisters, pretty direct reference, and then the turning of men into stone.
Yeah.
Another Gorgon sister Medusa reference.
And also, Roger being. Oh, sorry. You keep going.
No. Go ahead.
No. You keep going.
I was going to say, like, to the point of the men freezing into stone. I love that Oda. I had the hearts solidified as well, like the hearts beating out of the chest, also frozen in stone. Like that's such an amazing Oda. Like that's so Oda, and I love that. Like I absolutely love everything about that. Such an awesome detail. There was actually, sorry, Cody, before you go,
you're good.
A few other small details that I really enjoyed about this chapter were, and Cody, you actually mentioned this last chapter with the bows being snakes. I actually just realized just now that the bows are literally snakes, not just bows that look like snakes, but the
Yeah.
snake that is on their person is actually becoming the bow that they're using. I just had that realization. That is so fun.
Yeah.
And also like, yeah, it is so cool. I absolutely love that. Oh, and there's mention of the arrows being infused or like imbued with hockey power. And this is our first time like seeing hockey power being infused into an object that's not just like I've always sensed. I always thought it was like an aura that a person gave off, but here it's like a much more controlled thing where people are able to imbue it into, in this case, arrows, which makes you wonder what else you can imbue with hockey.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're seeing different
it's kind of a
applications
fun fact.
of hockey that we
Yeah.
haven't seen really used before.
Pretty neat. And I feel like even the concept of hockey is coming up more and more as we're getting, now further and further into the Grand Line and now the Red Line.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty crazy.
Cody.
Like oh yeah, sorry, Cody.
No, you're fine. All I was gonna say was just to piggyback off the Gorgon references that I think if you look at I don't know if it's in this chapter or just the last chapter, but definitely on the armor of some of the Amazons, you see it's a skull with snakes coming out of it, which is just a very Medusa-like reference. So just
Totally.
carry
I
on
haven't
with
noticed
that.
that. Oh yeah, there's like a lot of like little details because like we're in a new place and it's like the culture is so unique to this area. I think there's just like a lot of little details and like the way this culture is set up and like this island is set up. There's a lot of details that like it's very easy to overlook all these things, but like there's a lot of like fun like little Easter eggs to look for.
Yeah. And we were like, I feel like this world was so thrust upon us. Like it was so quick introduction, and the movie's like getting kicked out as quickly as he got kicked into it.
We crash landed here, yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to just mention here because there's a fun little like translation type thing. So when Boa does her move, she says level of mellow. So the Funimation dub refers to it as level of beam, but then the trading card game does use the Viz translation of level of mellow. So in Japanese, she says for love love, it's a meadow MERO, which means madly in love. But then, like, so if you was to say, like, it'd be like meadow. So it's like marrow mellow. So if you were to say level of mellow, so it's kind of like a pun in that sense because like it's like using the same word that the Japanese would use in that case. So.
Yeah, this is a cool ability. I like how they visualize it with like these heart beams shooting out of her hands. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. But yeah, at the end of the chapter, so essentially, like, Boa Hancock tells Momonga, like, yeah, so essentially she sent a message being like, yeah, I'm totally gonna help out with the war. Made them show up here to like escort her, and I was like, yeah, I was lying. I'm just gonna take your stuff, and I'm gonna keep my title as warlord. It's like, yeah, you thought that was gonna work, and it's like, well, yeah. So she always kind of gets her way, so maybe it will work. But Momonga's kind of like not budging, so I kind of feel like Momonga's resisting, and not falling for it. He's not gonna like let Bo Hancock walk over him. He has a duty to fulfill, and he's going to see it through. But he's like, I'll give you 2 days to make your decision if you want to join the war. I'll wait here for 2 more days. After that, if you fail to show up, then we're gonna strip your title of warlord. And she's just kind of like, sure, do whatever you want.
Yeah, she's pretty cool.
I did check the wiki. So Kuja is likely a pun with the Japanese term kujaku, which means peacock, an animal associated with beauty.
Interesting. I also did a quick little search, and I do think that there is a legendary like 8 or 9 headed Japanese like dragon serpent, which I think is probably like a Hydra kind of reference.
Oh,
like
the Orochi
like
kind
a
of?
like a Hydra from like Greek mythology. Yeah, Kuzu. I'm gonna butcher this, but Kuzuryu, the nine-headed dragon god.
Hmm.
It's a deity that appears in folklore and legends of various parts of Japan.
Interesting.
Ooh. Oh, that's pretty cool.
We'll probably see that in SBS somewhere, probably.
Maybe.
You might.
Okay, so for right now, are you guys good to move on?
Most def.
Yep.
Okay, we get the next part of the cover story. CP9's Independent Report, Volume 24. CP9 sets sail from St. Poplar. CP9 has taken over the Candy Pirates ship and set off to sea. Yeah, so I guess we're like, oh, the Candy Pirates aren't using this anymore. I guess we'll take it.
Yep. This one's pretty self-explanatory, but it's kind of cool. Everyone's like striking their little pose somewhere on the boat. Little I Spy. I Spy the CP9.
I just noticed it looks like Kaku's in the crow's nest, which kind of reminds me of like back in Water 7, how like he like jump from like the like off like the like the cliff.
Yep.
So he's kind of like, yeah.
So is that Lucci in the very back?
I think it's Bruno in the back, right?
Are you talking about like at the bottom part?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think so. Yeah, because it looks like a hot tree is flying near him. And I think he might have his hat.
Yeah. He's holding his hat.
Yeah, it's kind of like Where's Waldo.
It really is.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, moving on to chapter 517, Bath Time. The citizens of Amazon Lily celebrate Hancock's return. As Hancock settles into her throne, she remarks that the city defenders weren't there to greet her. She is told that they were out hunting a fierce monkey. Granny Neon enters, but Hancock tells her to leave. Neon ignores this and tells her she noticed the Navy ship. She reminds her that she has a duty to protect her people as one of the warlords. Not letting herself be bossed around, she throws the old woman out the window. Luckily, she is tough and lands on her feet. Orders are given for everyone to evacuate the castle as the Empress will be taking her bath. One of the young girls asks why they have to leave. Ron, one of the pirates, tells the girl that Hancock and her sisters, Marigold and Sandersonia, defeated a Gorgon, but in return, were cursed with eyes on their backs that would turn anyone to stone who were caught in their gaze. Luffy continues to evade capture and determines that he has to speak to someone high up who can give him a ship. He finds the tallest building, which is Kuja Castle, and accidentally falls through the roof, landing in Hancock's bath. He notices something on Hancock's back that looks familiar, which makes her furious. Typical Luffy.
Yeah, that's some Zoro logic.
Yeah,
I don't even know where to start with this one. This one has a lot of cool nuggets in it. I think we definitely get even more on Boa Hancock's like personality here, kind of in the beginning. Kind of just solidifying what we said earlier. Like she has a very entitled sort of personality. And like you said, seems to get her way with everything. And we kind of see her like confronted by like the village elder who's trying to, maybe speak some wisdom or share her opinion, and she's kind of just brushed off. And she uses a magical, I love the like magical crystal ball that she uses, and she conjures up not like a vision, but like a magic 8-ball that just says like "Go now." I thought that was pretty hilarious. And then of course we get some of the background, which is really interesting. It seems even more like Greek mythology references.
Yeah, going back to your point with Neon, like Neon seems to be trying to advise Hancock, and like she's trying to remind Hancock that like her role as a warlord is important because most people can't get here because they're in the Comm Belt, so they're protected from that. But the Navy has now access to the technology that allows them to travel through the Comm Belt. So if they make an enemy of the Navy, they aren't safe here because the Navy can now get here. So, like, Neon's trying to, use logic here and be like, hey, we kind of need you to maintain this title of the warlord so we can, keep your power and the leverage that you have. Because if you relinquish that, then we're essentially going to be at the mercy of the Navy, and there's nothing going to stop them from, coming here and doing what they want to do. And they'll have consequences if they defy the Navy.
Yeah, big decisions to be made.
But yeah, Hancock seems not interested in doing her duty as one of the warlords and participating in this war. She's just like, I'm not interested. I'm not doing that.
Then pulls the scene straight out of the Emperor's New Groove and throws it out the window. I do think Hancock's position is very interesting here because, like, one of the first things we see in this chapter is her saying, "Hey, the city defenders were in the gate. What's up with that?" Like, so she clearly does have the interest of her home in mind. It's just to what extent.
Yeah.
And at what level of inconvenience to her is she willing to take, as it's presented right here?
Right. Yeah, so like her first thought, like when returning, was like, "What's more important than me right now? Like, what's distracting these people from greeting me?"
Yep.
But luckily, she kind of like lets it slide. Oh yeah, and we also did see. I forgot about this part when one of the children of the village made like a statue of her out of clay and presented her as a gift. So Hancock's like, "What is this?" It's like, "Oh, the children worked very hard on this. They even colored it. I thought it was so sweet." She's like, "I see." So they made me out of mud, and she says it's rubbish, and then knocks it on the ground, destroys it. And she's like, "Don't bring filthy things to the castle. Throw it out." So it's like the children made this for her as like a tribute, and it's like meant to be like a sweet thing, even though she looks kind of a Muppet here. But she's like, "Get this out of my sight. This is disgusting."
It seems to be speaking to her vanity.
Yeah, she's like, "This does not do my beauty justice."
I feel like another thing we kind of notice in this chapter, speaking of her beauty, is like even her followers are like infatuated with her in a sense, or like even Nyan for a second like succumbs to the puppy dog eyes, and then has to like snap out of it. So like I don't know, it almost does like, I don't know, this is the world of One Piece, so I don't know if it is just her beauty or if it is tied to like her devil fruit abilities and like this, like what it was, the fruit. Did we get the name of the fruit that she consumed?
I don't think I mentioned yet.
We don't have confirmation, but we had a pretty strong hint as to what it was.
Yeah, with the, what was it called? The beam. Love, like the love fruit, the love beam. But yeah, I mean, I'd be curious to see like how much of that is her power versus just her actual beauty itself. Because like Oda's obviously going to play it up, and like their hearts are popping out of their eyeballs and their hearts are beating out of their chests. But I wonder how much of that is a strictly physical attraction versus the power of the love fruit.
See, I get the sense that it's strictly her beauty that is causing this for people. I think the devil fruit power is just something that is kind of an extension of that she uses to manipulate people in that sense. And I feel like she also has no hesitation to manipulate people to get her way. Like we even have like this moment, like I'm not sure how genuine she is here, but like when that Neon confronts her and says like, "Why aren't you going? Go now." Like if you participate, the trees will hold. You're Neon strong enough now that you won't be killed in battle. And then she has this moment where she's like, "But I'm afraid." So it's like, is she really afraid, or is she just kind of like saying that to kind of get sympathy. So is she just kind of playing with Neon here? But Neon says like, don't start that, so she kind of brushes it off. So it seems like she's not really buying it. It seems like an act to me.
That's how I interpret it as well. It was like
Yeah.
the puppy dog eyes, trying to get her way.
But yeah, I think she just knows how to play with people in order to get her way.
Yeah. And she's not afraid to utilize that or take advantage of
Right.
that. I think my favorite panel of this entire chapter is Luffy is thinking, and the sound effects are clunk clunk as he's trying to come up with an idea. So good.
I think this chapter really does deliver on the comedy. Like, one with like the magic 8-ball, two with the sound effect. But also Luffy saying, okay, let me find the quote. Oh, important people live in tall buildings.
Yeah.
So I just go to the tallest building and
Yeah.
I'll find the one who gave me a ship. What I think is like a very underrated joke is Hancock looking so far down on someone that she looks up.
Yes.
That
I was gonna
never
mention that
fails.
one
I
too.
find that
Yeah.
so funny.
Yeah.
I've always found that hilarious, even from like my first time seeing it. I thought that was so brilliant.
Yeah.
It's like she's like almost like doing a 360 to get to that point. So that's like I interpret it. Yeah, so like a lot of cosplayers will do this pose. It's kind of like iconic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just like such a like again like such a conceited thing to do. Like I'm letting you know how much I look down on you. Like I'm going to like an extra level to just really drive this point home.
Yeah.
But it's funny too because she starts like more upright and she gradually like goes further back, and they see it happening in real time. But also like to go back to your point about like Luffy trying to find somebody who can give him a ship. He always seems to think people are just going to give him a ship.
Yeah.
Like some people just have like spare ships. Like, yeah, I'm sure you have like a few ships you can spare. You can just give me one of those.
Always an optimist.
Yeah, because even like going back to Xero Village, like his plan was to find somebody to give them a ship. Let's go to that big house. I'm sure they'll give us a ship.
I still think he even mentions that, without Nami, I just go drifting off somewhere. Like, he's just so useless without his crew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or helpless, I should say, rather than useless.
Yeah.
But, like, still.
Yeah.
It's nice that that's being brought to attention here.
Yeah, because he's gotten so used to having his crew with him. Again, going back to that quote in Arlong, I just feel like it just really like does such a good job of explaining Luffy's mindset is like there are certain things that I can't do. That's why my crew is meant to do those things because they're good at those things. And that's why like we work good together. So like Luffy's just gotten so used to having that support system that he really needs to have a successful crew. And now he's having a hard time adjusting to that.
Yeah, struggling to make some friends. And speaking of which, at the end of this volume, he ends up falling through the roof of the bathhouse and finds himself in some hot water as he sees Boa's back, revealing her or seeing her marks.
Yeah.
The Gorgon eyes.
Yeah, because they did this whole production type thing where it's like they had to evacuate the entire castle just so like nobody can accidentally see her back.
Mm-hmm.
And like they have like a whole like story behind it and like the reason for it. So it's like they tell them that they're doing this to protect everybody. But Luffy seems to be immune to this effect that they warned about. So he sees her back and doesn't seem to be affected by the stone.
And he says, I think I've seen it before.
Yeah, so he sees something he recognizes.
Very curious.
All right. Well, anything else before we move on to the next one?
I'm good.
Okay. Let's move on to CP9's Independent Report, Volume 25, Hometown. The CP9 agents arrive at their hometown.
Aw.
They look
They
very
seem to be
happy.
happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Chapter 518, Coliseum. Hearing the commotion, Hancock's sisters come in to check on her. She tells them Luffy saw her back and states he must die. Luffy is confused as to what the big deal is. She uses her love of Mellow on him, but is unaffected. She tries again, but still nothing. Luffy runs, jumping out of the building, but is captured by the guards below and brought to the Coliseum. Luffy explains that he doesn't know how he got here, but Hancock shows no sympathy. Marguerite, Sweet Pea, and Ephelandra introduce themselves to the Snake Princess and plead for mercy as they don't think he means any harm. Hancock turns them to stone. She orders Bakura, the Panther, to be released to kill Luffy. Luffy defeats the Panther in one blow, showing that everyone just sat by while their friends return to stone. Hancock tells Luffy everyone will forgive her because she is beautiful, but Luffy says she makes him sick. Nobody speaks to her this way. The other two Boa sisters enter the ring and take on their snake forms, which Luffy realizes are devil fruit powers. The crowd cheers on for Luffy to be put to death. Okay, thoughts on this one?
Oh no, it's slowpoke protons.
That was really funny.
Oh, that was such a good throwback.
And then I think we also kind of get a throwback to when Luffy was first hit by Nell's powers, or Eneru.
Mm-hmm.
So like that face in the upper left corner, where he kind of like purses his lips.
Yeah.
I think that was the same face he made when Eneru's powers did nothing to him. He was like,
Oh
and
my
then
god.
and then like the panel below, everybody does like the head tilt with the question mark, like, huh?
So good.
I love how he's totally playing along with it both times, like reacting and yelling and like striking a pose, and then it doesn't work both times.
Yeah, I especially love that like that first like after he gets hit by the first one, no, the second one rather. He puts like his arms up. He's got his eyes closed because he's like, "Oh no, I'm turning slow." He just makes
He
such a
puts
really
that
funny
hat
face.
back on with his lips still first, like. I love him so much.
So interesting.
Yeah.
But also, I think kind of reveals a little bit more the function of the Love Mellow. I think the sisters mentioned that what was it? Like he had no imperfections or no like lust in his heart, which I found super interesting.
Yeah, no impure thoughts.
No impure thoughts.
Which kind of gives me like Dragon Ball vibes too, with like the Nimbus.
Yeah, totally.
Oh,
How, like,
yeah.
Pure of heart.
Yeah. So I kind of feel like that's just like a quality that we see with a lot of these like shonen protagonists, where it's like they sometimes they have like this quality to them, where like Luffy just has like this purity to him, of like again like he's not like he just has like a good heart, you know,
Mm-hmm.
which we see more of in this chapter as well, because he's put to the Coliseum to be put to death for, well, first of all, he's a man, so he's gonna be put to death anyway. But he also saw something he shouldn't have on Boa's back. So yeah, now he's put into the Coliseum for a public execution. But yeah, then the like the trio that found him initially try to vouch for him, like, hey, like we think he doesn't mean any harm. Like we know he's a man, but like I think he really isn't trying to hurt anybody. So like we brought him back thinking like, yeah, like he seems safe. Like he's not somebody that's like gonna try to hurt us. And then Bo Hancock's like having none of it, and she's like, without like hesitation, yep, turn to stone. So she's like very heartless in that way.
Harsh.
Yeah. So Luffy doesn't take kindly to that. So Luffy is concerned about the people who were nice to him, and that's what he values. So Luffy's seeing the value that those are the kinds of people he likes, and then when he sees Bo Hancock being cruel, that's what gets him mad, and those are the kinds of people he doesn't like.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Man, as soon as Luffy's got some stake in the game, watch out.
They also make a comment when he beats Bakura the Panther, saying he didn't use any hockey, he did it by brute strength alone.
Hmm.
So hockey's something you can use now too, apparently.
Hmm.
It can come off you, you can imbue it, and you can use it.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
It's like slowly forming, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so it seems
But
like
it
all of
seems
them
more
are
and more
familiar with
frequent.
hockey.
Yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted to point out here, I believe this is a translation error. I believe Bakura is supposed to actually be female, but they say that he has served the Empress. But because they don't use pronouns in Japanese in this case, they don't use like language that would identify like a gender.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do believe that I think there was in one of the reference books that it was actually confirmed that Bakura is supposed to be female, which would make sense because it's an all-female island.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I also love that the ropes are snakes.
Also snakes. Yeah, instead of is it cake, it's is it snake?
And the answer is always yes here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. It's amazing.
We also get a little surprise at the end here when Luffy speaks directly to Boa and says, "You make me sick," and she swoons over it.
Well, I think it's like she's struck, like she's like taking it back. She's like
It literally says swoon.
It says swoon.
It says swoon.
Really? Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
The onomatopoeia
Yeah.
does not lie.
You're right. It does say that. Yeah, she's like, this can't be happening. No man can resist me. His existence is intolerable.
Yeah, she's probably never experienced that before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've seen like literally nobody talks to her this way. So
Yeah.
I do think the transformation of Marigold and Sandersonia, like I think their snake forms look really cool.
So cool.
Very cool. Almost like dragons.
Yeah. Yeah, and the crowd cheers on. Like they want to see this man put to death.
Yeah, it's so amazing because like it's really cool like getting all this backstory and kind of seeing how the society functions around these believed truths, and then having the perspective that Luffy has and kind of being like, these aren't,
Yeah.
this is a devil fruit power, and like this doesn't quite line up. Like they're not, he's kind of like seeing behind the curtain.
Yeah, because the crowd says it's the Gorgon's curse.
Right,
So
the
they
curse.
think it was the curse from the Gorgon that the sisters experience that allows them to transform into snakes. So yeah, they don't seem to be familiar with the devil fruits, which also like threw them off when Luffy was stretching. So they're like, men can just do that. So they weren't thinking, oh, he has a devil fruit. Like,
Right.
oh, this is just what he does. Okay. Yeah. Anything else on this one? Okay, and Sean is now joining us here. Hey, Sean.
Hey, me from the future. Or the past. Or
All right, so yeah, Sean is going to be joining us for the rest of the volume here. CP9's Independent Report, Volume 26, The Next Generation CP9 in Training. On this island, children are raised to be potential CP agents.
Gross.
It's like the Jedi. You got to train them young.
That's bad enough for the Jedi. Even worse for literal government agents. Like,
Yeah.
So I have a question for you guys. Do you guys know the reason why this page is in a gray color scale?
Not a clue.
Yes, I was hoping we'd bring this up.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
We do get it in the SBS in I think 2 chapters.
Oh, it does come up. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Evan, what was the reason for this?
So this is chapter 519, which is the same number of chapters in Dragon Ball by Akira Toriyama. So he's kind of paying homage to Toriyama here, which, being a fan of Dragon Ball and having read all of Dragon Ball, I think that's a really, really cool nod of the hat.
Yeah. So yeah, cool little detail there. Because at first I was like,
Yeah,
why is
so
this?
cool.
What's different about this chapter? I couldn't quite figure it out. I had to like look it up, but then it came up in the SBS later.
Yeah.
We are moving on to chapter 519, Natural Born King. Luffy hears the crowd marvel at the cursed forms, but thinks to himself they're just devil fruits. Luffy moves the women who are turned to stone to safety, then gets ready to fight. As Luffy fights them, he is confused that they can hurt him even though he is rubber, and they're able to predict his moves. They mock him because he doesn't know how to use hockey. Sandra Sonia picks up Marguerite with her tail and threatens to crush her to pieces. Luffy shouts that this is a duel between them. Furious, Luffy shouts for him to stop. A force passes over the crowd, knocking some of the warriors unconscious. Everyone stops in their tracks. Ron remarks that Luffy just used the hockey of the Supreme King, which only 1 in a million people can use. Sandra Sonia says that Hancock is the only other person that she knows that's able to use it. Luffy says he won't hold back anymore, activating Gear 2. Okay, yeah, so thoughts on the chapter?
Sandra Sonia is my wife. I love Big Snake Lady, and I cannot deny, and a wide face snake woman. That's about it.
Okay, cool.
I
All right,
mean,
moving on. Now, I do think she has a really cool design, though, and I do think she's like very different from like the typical Oda designs that we've been seeing.
Yeah.
We did kind of mention this earlier, where it feels like because we have so many different women, like Oda has played around with like their design, so we see a lot of different types of women than we normally see in One Piece. So it's actually really, really nice to see different designs.
It is.
mhm.
Except for Boa, who looks like all
His
of our
traditional
other females.
supermodel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Boa, we get another Boa reaction to Luffy bad talking her when he says "shut up, you dummy," and she swoons again. And then this is the chapter where we get to see her looking down on people so far down that she's actually looking up.
Yeah, we see her do that here too.
Yeah,
Does not
which
get
is
old.
absurd.
We get more details about hockey. So we actually see like hockey used in different ways in this chapter, but we actually now get a named form of this hockey. So Evan, I want to know, like, what was your reaction to seeing Luffy activate this hockey?
Yeah, this is such a powerful moment, and we get the term Supreme King Hockey for the first time, which is pretty dope. But it's cool. I think the use and terminology around hockey has evolved so much in the past. In just this volume, I think we've gotten a lot with like being able to imbue hockey into objects, just the talk around hockey and Raleigh's display of hockey, and even going back to Shank's display of hockey with Whitebeard. So it's pretty cool getting to see Luffy using this ability on such a large scale here, like knocking out a Coliseum full of people. Pretty impressive.
Yeah,
not knocking everyone out, but
like
affecting everybody.
Most people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's evolving.
this also isn't the first time we've seen Luffy actually use this ability. Because if we remember back to Montebarro, he was able to essentially enforce his will over Montebarro. Like he overpowered him with his will. But now we have an explanation as to like what Luffy did there and what we've been seeing. Like you said, Shanks and Rayleigh, we've seen them use this type of hockey before, where like just like the force of like their will is enough to knock out people around them. And it seems to be like a latent thing that some people possess and some people can't use it.
And there's even ranks among it.
Ranks in what way?
But like the term Supreme King Hockey would make me assume that there's like different levels of this ability or of this like power.
Okay.
Okay, that's one way to. Yeah, I could see where you could think that.
Yeah.
And maybe it's true.
Or you think that's just more elaborating more
Well,
on?
I know what it is, but
yeah, I think it's safe to say that this is just a classification of one of the forms of hockey.
Got it.
So
Okay.
this ability that Luffy is using here is a specific form of hockey that not everybody can do. So not everybody can do this thing where they can knock other people out using their will. So this is a special form of hockey that Luffy can do.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And they said that Boa also has this Supreme King hockey, and it's safe to assume that Rayleigh and Shanks also do, because they had their hockey also had similar effects on people.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Got it.
And Cody, what was your reaction to seeing this for the first time?
About the same as what's the name of the girl sitting next to Ron in the panel? It was, oh my god, so sick. Yeah, just an incredibly hype moment. But for me, the thing that really sells it is that Luffy has no idea that what he did was just noteworthy at all.
Right.
He's like, oh, so you're ready to listen to me. Cool. Y'all, you're actual people. I love that. But definitely seeing him do something so powerful on such a wide scale is definitely a step up for him. Which is pretty hype.
Yeah, it's cool because like we know Luffy's special, and this is like another way to kind of show that there's more to him than like you initially think. And that's the impression that the people here are also getting, because they were just thinking, oh, he's gonna get wrecked by the Boa twins here. Or if the twins, but the Boa sisters. Yeah, so like he's continuing like doing things that are surprising the people around him. And I think this is just another one of those ways. But speaking of other ways, we also see other forms of hockey that don't really have as much of an explanation here, but we do see other applications for hockey, but it's being defined as hockey. So we do see how they're able to predict the moves. Like we saw the mantra being used in Skypiea. So it seems that they probably were using hockey in Skypiea, but we're calling it something different.
Interesting.
This is something I didn't realize until much later on too, because I didn't completely read Skypiea well enough. I was like, oh, that's okay. That's what mantra. Okay.
Yep.
He ties it all together.
But then we also see them able to hit Luffy, which, because we've seen them like imbuing like the arrows and things, but like when they're attacking Luffy, they're able to infuse hockey, and they're hitting Luffy, which is like surprising him, like why these attacks are hurting him. So we're seeing hockey being used in these different ways, all like in this one chapter. So
we see Marigold deflect his Gum stamp in the same way that Sentomaru did in South Odi as well.
Yeah, good tie back there too. So yeah, we're seeing all these examples of hockey that like weren't expressly called hockey before, but we're kind of seeing like the pieces be put together on that.
So neat. I love how Oda's kind of like slowly unfolding that,
or
folding it into the storyline. Like, yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, he's definitely setting the stage for that kind of stuff too. So he's been like, slowly introducing this to us like over the years. So, but it's been like ramped up a lot in the past 2 arcs. But yeah, we've been seeing a lot more examples of it. And how about Luffy's reaction to how like their own people seem to not respect like their friends?
Shows his very valorous side of just like, come on, why are you all assholes?
Right? Yeah, I feel like this strikes such a chord with Luffy, because he's like, how could you treat your friends like this? Like, you said these are your friends, and here you are, like, publicly shaming them, turning them to stone. and that's okay with you. Like, I thought they were your friends. So I feel like it strikes a chord with Luffy specifically.
Bring up the fact that Marguerite looked up to Hancock, and the fact that that apparently means nothing to her as well.
Right.
Mm.
I think is also huge for Luffy, particularly.
Yeah, and they would just try and do the right thing. So
Mhm.
they were like, they stood up for Luffy, and they were saying, we don't think he means any harm. Like they thought like they were being helpful, they were being honest. They said, yeah, we found him, we brought him in, but like, we don't think he's gonna hurt anybody. So can we like let this slide? And then Hancock just whatever she says goes, and she's like, no, so no mercy. And like now, like she's being used as like almost like a toy for them to play around with Luffy. So like Luffy is the one that cares about them the most in this situation. And even though he just showed up here and he doesn't have the same ties to these people who are the people that should be looking out for her. But yeah, so they were punished for trying to do the right thing, and for Luffy that's like unforgivable. So he gets upset here. And that's really the catalyst that puts him over the breaking point. So that way he activates the Conquerors or the Supreme King Haki.
Something he has unintentionally used before to some degree, but never with this level of scale.
Mhm.
Yeah, so any other thoughts for this one?
The tables have turned.
Okay. Let's move on to chapter 520, Eye of the Gorgon. Now that he's using Gear 2, the Snake Sisters are no longer able to dodge Luffy's moves, even if they can predict them. Hancock is growing impatient that her sisters are taking too long to kill the man. Marigold uses her salamander technique to turn her hair into fire snakes. Luffy blasts them both with a jet gatling and ties their tails together, causing Cinder Sonia's clothes to catch on fire. As she tries to get away, she catches herself on the wall to stop herself from falling into the spike pit. Luffy notices her back is becoming exposed, and jumps onto her to prevent the crowd from seeing it. Hancock orders the crowd to leave as to not be exposed to the Gorgon curse. Cinder Sonia is confused why Luffy would help them, to which Luffy replies that their duel had nothing to do with what's on their back.
Oh, what a good fella.
Lovely.
Luffy being Luffy.
Yeah, there's really no other way to put it.
Luffy doing Luffy things.
Good guy, Luffy.
Yeah, how about we start with Cody on this one?
I think if we start from the beginning, I just love the paneling in this chapter. Just the way they frame both of Marigold and Sandersonia's big attacks. I think very, very hype moments there. Very good sells for those. I feel like for some reason I was thinking as I reread this, wait, Sandersonia moving her hair around kind of reminds me of Kumadori moving his hair around in Aang's lobby. Could there be like some like life return, Kamiya, hockey connection thing? I don't know. It's there may be nothing there, but that was just a silly thought that occurred to me.
It is reminiscent of that. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's a great battle chapter and then a great character chapter because Luffy is willing to help these people without knowing the significance of his action, just the fact that it's something that they don't want anyone to see, even though, Sandor Sawyer is literally the one throwing Marguerite's statue around, making light of potentially killing this person, looked up to them. Luffy's like, no, I'm still going to help you.
Yeah.
Good guy, Luffy.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more of like what we saw in the last chapter, right? Where he was selflessly trying to protect the other people and showing care for people that, again, he just met these people and they're actually trying to kill them. But he's also recognizing and being like empathetic towards these people, or sympathetic rather, towards these people and understanding their situations and taking it into consideration when it comes to his actions. So he's going to great lengths to protect these people who aren't doing the same for him. And Sean, how about you?
Yeah, it's a great moment of his empathy, sympathy, personable nature, even in the midst of like it's something we've seen multiple times throughout the series of just like he's here for one specific thing and he's not. I don't know. I don't have a great way of describing it. You guys have pretty much summed it up pretty well. Like,
Okay.
If he hadn't done this, it would have been out of character for Luffy. Is like what I'd say. So like this had to happen.
Yeah.
He's always so considerate. He always seems to be like thinking about other people before himself, and even in this situation where these people are trying to kill him, he's still able to see the good in these characters and does this act. I mean, it's so considerate.
Yeah, I mean,
all he's been through.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, I know it's totally in character for Luffy, but it's also just unexpected that like he found himself in the situation and like this is how he reacts. So it's still like it's still surprising to see, but it is also like really touching that Luffy essentially like during the fight is like, hey, let me just go protect this person who was trying to kill me. And she really is kind of defenseless right now, but like yeah, he kind of puts an end to everything where even like Marigold was like, I can't attack him because if I do, like it's going to expose your back. So he kind of like checkmates the situation by doing this, like unknowingly. I guess it'd be more of a stalemate. If we want to be technical about it, yeah, more of a stalemate.
There's also one more important thing to point out.
Yeah.
We see full frontal snake booba on page 18, and Oda draws a line. He says that snakes can have boobs, but they don't have nipples. So that's the line in the sand. He's making a principled stand.
So honorable.
That's your girl.
I know. Yeah.
Going back to the beginning of this chapter, I love the Hydra. Like I love the Hydra reference we get here with the multi-headed, 8-headed snake with the hair, and then these like flame, like salamander dragons, like such like an epic battle with you against these like dragons. I love it. And like Cody was saying, I think it's such a dynamic fight scene, especially climaxing at the jet Gatling. I think is that the first time we've seen the jet Gatling?
No, he used it against Lucci.
Yeah,
that's right. That was like the big finishing move on Lucci. But that panel is absolutely insane.
So good.
Looks incredible.
Even looks like the fire and hair snakes are just as taken aback as their users are.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So cool. I feel like I can picture it and hear it happening. Like, I love the like supersonic explosions that are happening around Luffy.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. It looks so good.
Yeah, and that's such a cool effect that Oda does use specifically for like the like the Gear 2 moves, like when he like does like a jet form or something. Where like it's just like such a force where you don't even see like the arm like move so much. It's more like you just see like the wave, like the after effect.
Yeah, you hear like that supersonic boom. I love it.
And then the way he ties up the tails is like so cartoony, but like in the best way. It's like something you would totally see like in like Looney Tunes, like or like a Disney cartoon or something.
Yeah, I love how this plays out.
Do you guys have any other thoughts for this one?
I have an SBS thing, but as far as the chapter, that's it.
Okay. So I'll move on to the next part of the SBS.
I guess
sorry.
Sorry, just the fact that we see like this one moment at the very end of Hancock starting to show a little vulnerability. It's it's a big development there. And I just want to make sure I just wanted to highlight that briefly.
Yeah, that's a good point, because we did see her earlier, like the moment where she said like she was like scared and she wanted to go, where like we had the moment where it's like, is she being sincere there, or is she just playing around? But now we have this moment of like sincere vulnerability where like she is legitimately crying, like tears here.
And hiding
So
it.
yeah, she doesn't want to show that to anybody, even though like most of the people have like cleared out at this point. But yeah, she doesn't want to like admit to herself, but she's being vulnerable here. So, and Sean, do you had a SPS thing?
Yeah, well, it's this thing that Evan pointed out. Yeah, he talks about the Dragon Ball connection, but the funny bit to me is in his answer of like, so even though we were both in serialization for 12 years, I did 53 volumes. I'm sorry I made you spend so much extra money. I want to wrap up One Piece soon. I did a quick look. This came out in 2008.
Yep.
It's like, I don't think you know what that word means.
But I don't want to abandon the story I've tied up until I've tied up the loose ends. So please be patient with me because I won't stop until I wrap everything up. He's not fucking lying.
Nope.
Soon is a loose term.
Soon is a loose term.
Sometime within the next 3 decades. Okay, moving on to the next part of the cover story. CP9's Independent Report, Volume 27. Pursuers ashore. CP9 capture mission. Navy soldiers arrive on the island that CP9 landed on to attempt to capture them.
It's kind of crazy that Barry Good's one of the captains here. That one of the ones who was like deployed to help with CP9's Buster call.
Yeah, he was at Ennis Lobby.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we're not cool with him anymore.
Yeah.
You sure? Yeah, no, take him out.
Wanted fugitives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Navy doesn't mess around when it comes to capturing CP9.
Nope.
Okay, let's get into the chapter. Sorry, hold on. Yeah, so I know I've been trying to keep these summaries short, but this one I kind of failed at that miserably. So they've been getting progressively longer, so, but bear with me. Chapter 521. Chapter 521, Hoof of the Celestial Dragon. Luffy asks if Hancock is going to fight him, but she says no. Luffy checks on Marguerite to make sure she isn't cracked. Luffy asks if Boa can turn the Stone Woman back. She says she can, but gives him a choice. He can either have a ship, or have them turned back to normal. Without hesitation, requests to have her turn the woman back to normal. Expecting Luffy to reveal his true nature, that he is self-serving, Hancock is shocked at his response. The women outside are overjoyed to see their friends were turned back to normal as they leave the Coliseum. Marguerite says she doesn't know what happened, but the man was invited back to Kuja Castle. Sandra, Sonia, and Marigold thank Luffy, telling him they would have had to leave if everyone found out what was on their backs. Luffy is expecting a banquet behind the curtain where Hancock is, but is disappointed to find her without food and without clothes. She shows him the mark on her back and asks where he saw it before. Now that he has had a better look, he realizes it's actually different than the one he was thinking of that was on Hachi's forehead. Granny Neon enters and tells Hancock that she should explain what the mark is. She has a newspaper and recognizes that he is Monkey D. Luffy, the pirate who punched a celestial dragon at Sabaody 2 days ago. Luffy declares he isn't sorry for what he did. Hancock breaks down to tears, saying he is just like Fisher Tiger. She tells him the mark on her back is called the Hoof of the Celestial Dragon, which is used to mark slaves. She and her sisters were slaves of the world nobles. They were captured when she was 12 and treated horribly as a slave. 4 years later, the fishman Fisher Tiger, captain of the Fishman Pirates, entered Marijoa, where many fishmen were being held as slaves. He assaulted Marijoa and freed as many slaves as he could. He gathered up the fishmen and formed the Pirates of the Sun. In order to mask who were the slaves, they all branded themselves with the sun mark to cover up the mark any slaves had, made it impossible to tell who the slaves were before. After Fisher Tiger died, the rest of the Fishman Pirates split off into different factions. Luffy confirmed the mark he was thinking of was the sun. Hancock admits that she was afraid to be vulnerable in front of other people, never wants to be controlled again. She asks Luffy if she thinks less of her now. He says of course not. Hancock tells Luffy she likes him and offers to take him wherever he wants to go. Okay, so big lore chapter here.
Lore dump.
Banger.
So there's a lot to talk about. But how about we start with Evan? And where do you want to start on this one?
So Boa's test here to test Luffy's character, which I think he passes with flying colors, kind of allows him an audience with Boa, and she ends up between her and Granny, they end up giving the entire backstory, which I think ties so perfectly into the speculations that we've had before. Like, this is a topic that's come up on these podcasts many times of like, what is this symbol? We keep seeing it. Who are these people? So it's so satisfying to get some answers here. And I think the backstory here is like really touching and ties all of that together beautifully. So I really enjoyed that, and it was nice getting some answers in that regard, and also kind of gives a connection between Luffy's recent actions in Sabaody, and I think Luffy curries some favor with Boa here, having recently punched a celestial dragon in the face, and now knowing her connection with that. And we also see Boa completely vulnerable here. Like, I think up to this point, all of her interactions with Boa have been unlikable. Like, I think she's been an incredibly unlikable character until this moment when she finally kind of lets Luffy in and shows her vulnerability, and also kind of explains her hard exterior that she has, and like her motivations on not wanting to be controlled. And I think control is a big part of that, a big part of her like really tough exterior. But yeah, I mean, this was, like you said, a big lore dump, and we got like a ton of like threads tied up nicely, I thought.
Yeah, the stones began to crack for Boa's emotions.
Nice. I see what you did there.
Sean, how about we jump to you?
Yeah, it's I mean, it's just I love it's kind of just another version of the previous chapter, in the sense of just like, all right, I'm going to test your honor. Cool. Yep. Turn the back. Fuck my ship. Like, just no hesitation. He's like, oh man, I thought you were going to ask something difficult. Like, that's it. Like, and he goes the full Japanese super ultra formal apology bow. Where they put their head, like, there's like multiple types of bows, and he goes for the full like I am worthless bow, like
on the ground,
like,
face the ground,
face on the ground. It's great stuff. Do I know if Oda had, when he did the original mark on Hachi, was that just a tattoo, or did he always have this planned? I think either is possible. I lean towards he always has it planned, but either way, it's great. It's good stuff, but it's cool. They try to link it all back together. And hey, did you know if it's possible to hate the celestial dragons more? Well, now you can. He's giving you the opportunity.
Yeah.
Cody, how about you?
God, they suck. They suck so much. I hate the celestial dragons so much. Very, very. I don't want to say a wonderful 180, because it's incredibly sad, knowing everything that Boa has been through. But I just a very well done sell on a character, to put all their actions in a different context, and make me appreciate them even more. I did not care about Hancock at all until this chapter, and now she's wonderful. I think she's so well written. It's just cool seeing someone who's been through this much being able to go on both sides of empathy and having this giant mask up. I think Oda's gotten a lot of mileage out of that in a pretty short time. So very, very nice reveal. Also,
sure.
Just more reasons to hate the government, more reasons to hate the Celestial Dragons, as Sean said.
Yeah.
And lore with this Fisher Tiger guy. I hadn't, to Sean's point, I hadn't thought about how far Oda might have planned the Hoof of the Celestial Dragon and the Fishman Pirates mark. I feel like at the very least he had the lore of the Fishman Pirates and the enslavement in his mind. Whether that was the tattoo as well, no idea. But I'm sure there's at least some level of this. I agree with Sean on that point.
So this gives more context to why the fishmen are discriminated against. We saw in Saba Odi, the fishmen in general are not welcomed. And that's why Hachi was covering the mark on his head, and he was trying to hide the fact that he was a fishman. So not only does this recontextualize Boa and her as a character, but I think this also recontextualizes Arlong as well.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have a deeper look at how fishmen were treated and why Arlong was so bitter, because fishmen were discriminated against. And now he was kind of doing the same thing. He was turning back and being, now I have the power. I'm going to abuse that power, and I'm going to look down on humans. So it was kind of like reciprocating. It's like, well, if humans can treat me this way, then I'm going to treat humans this way. So it's just kind of feeding into that hatred. So yeah, I think it does also give us more insight as to why Arlong was the way that he was. Not defending his actions by any means, but it does make more sense given like his history with the fishmen. Why he would be the way he is. But yeah, I also do think, as you guys are saying, this makes Bo Hancock much more sympathetic as a character as well. So like that's a great thing, is like a lot of these characters in One Piece are complex characters. And yeah, like so it does have like these gimmicks for these characters. It's like they do these certain things and they're meant to be like gags, but at the same time they're also like flawed individuals. There's like gray to this. It's not as like clear cut as it seems. So when you first see Bo Hancock, yeah, she seems like a miserable person to be around. But then you see like she does these things. So it's really again kind of an act that she puts on because she wants to not be controlled, and she's like overcompensating for how she was treated before. So she was powerless and abused before, but now she's like turning around and being like, I'm not going to let anybody do that to me. So I have the power now. I want to be in control. I'm not going to let anybody walk over me again. So again, I feel like it does make sense for her character to act the way that she was acting.
And she extends that to her people too.
Yeah.
Like if we even go back to that line when she gets back saying, the guards weren't here.
Right.
That's always on her mind. That's where I think like beyond herself, like that's why she has this whole image to all of her people. So they have the strength, they have the safety, this whole treaty with the government and the warlords. Like if she seems weak or vulnerable for a second, then in her mind, it's all over for her entire country. And she puts that much pressure on herself.
Yeah. And even the whole like act of like the Gorgon curse, like they don't want people to know the truth. So the whole thing is a charade. But it's meant to keep this image in order to maintain that power and not be taken advantage of. And she really does come around to Luffy as well. So Luffy did like the one thing that like really won her over by, well, I mean, he did a few things already, I guess, by showing his true nature of, being selfless, but also punching the celestial dragon.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, she recognized that Luffy doesn't value the same things that a lot of people in this world do, and that's power. Luffy recognizes kindness, and that's the kind of thing that is important to him. Or people give him food. That's like, again, an extension of kindness. Marguerite took him in and helped him, so kindness. So those are the kinds of things that Luffy is valuing. And he's showing in this case here that power doesn't necessarily mean like being like overpowering people like with strength. Like there's also strength and caring as well. So I think that shows Luffy is a different kind of person who has like a power and he's trying to use it for good purposes.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how we see it over and over again. Like I think now that we kind of have the full picture of this dark, and which I loved. I thought like the Gorgon sisters and the themes throughout have been on point. And again, we have, Luffy's like thrust into this environment and he seems to always come at it with like a pure heart and a bit of ignorance maybe, but a lot of innocence. And there seems to be like a paradigm shift, you know, because he has like this outside perspective coming in, and in this case, he kind of literally flipped this whole world upside down, in the matter of days being, you know, like, but it's cool. And it's cool how we get these shifts, and like as we're getting more and more invested in this world and all these characters that Oda has presented us, like it just ties back further and further, and we have like more of a connection to like what you were saying, like this tying all the way back to Arlong and the Fishmen and the Sun Pirates, and like these conversations that we've been having, these questions we've brought up on previous podcasts. It's so gratifying to see it all kind of like coming together, and I love this formula that we've kind of gotten with Luffy coming in and just kind of changing everyone's perspective.
Yeah. It actually, now that you mention it, we saw that the Macro Gang also had the sun tattoo on them. Remember how you noticed that they had the tattoo as well, not just Hachi?
Yeah, this was like our big conspiracy theory. I feel like we've been having that conversation for so long. So it's like, it's so gratifying finally kind of getting a backstory, and such like a powerful, interesting backstory too. I'm like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So you were picking up on that. Yeah. You picked up on that when you saw the tattoos. Now you have like more of a like an idea of like, you know, where that came from and why they have the same tattoos. They mentioned here that they had the Sun Pirates, and then they like split off into different factions. So I think we can like assume that like, you know, like Arlong was a faction, maybe the Macro Gang was like a different faction. They did their own thing. Yeah, so it seems like maybe like Hachi kind of split off with like Arlong. So they kind of became divided after
and like Hachi. Tiger. So Hachi being introduced in Arlong, and then reintroduced, I guess, through the cover story, and then finally making his way back into the plot, and then being such like Luffy's connection to these Sun Pirates. Like he's like, oh, I know, like I have a friend, and it's kind of like his connection to this backstory. I think it's so cool that we've had that connection. We've had so much history with this character already, so it's really cool seeing that come full circle.
Oda's really like coming full circle with a lot of stuff right now. With like again, with bringing Hachi's lore back, the fact that we just had Rayleigh, who we technically appeared during the Orange Town arc. After 500 chapters, we know the identities of all 7 warlords. Like he is truly cashing in on this investment he's been making for 11 years of publication at this point.
Yeah. It's so cool. And I guess that's just like something that comes with storytelling, but like being invested in a storyline that's gone on for so long, it's cool. Like when the backstories start lining up and you're like, oh, I recognize this character, or, oh, we know people from this gang of pirates, or these characters are connected in this way. So it's been really cool. Just being on the ride.
Yeah. And I think this is a perfect example of why this long form storytelling of One Piece works so well, and why like we can have situations like this for the series, because it's been on for so long, and Oda can satisfyingly tie back these things and recontextualize stuff that we had early on in the series. And it's really gratifying to get further context for these things. So now we're getting more of the big picture. We're able to understand motivations and like histories a lot better. So a lot of these characters who showed up like early on just seem like, okay, this is just the bad guy for the arc. Okay, cool. But now we're saying, okay, there's a lot more to it than that. So yeah, it's just really satisfying for a story like this to be able to pay off a lot of the stuff that's been set up, and Oda does the work establishing these things, and it's something you can only do over like a long period of time like this.
Yeah, and we're seeing patterns too. Like we're like thrown into these societies that have these like a built-in culture, like a built-in society and way everything works. And usually Luffy comes in with a new perspective, and kind of, like I said before, there's like a paradigm shift where there's either like a deception that's uncovered, or either like deception or corruption that Luffy kind of shines a light on, and ends up changing the society forever.
Or ending to be a running theme. Yes.
Yeah.
whether or not he intends to, that's what he's doing.
Right. But that's the thing. He's like so innocent. Like a lot of times he doesn't really have any alternate intentions or selfish and like plots or anything like that. It's just coming in without any of that. With
Yeah.
kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an alternative, like self-serving motive. It's I want to do the right thing, and this is the end result.
But I also feel like it's not that he wants to do the right thing because it's the right thing. He wants to do the right thing because it's what naturally occurs to him.
Yes.
I don't think the ethics are in his brain at all, but like that just makes him even more of a good person.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. It was like it's a natural moral compass that he has that he follows. Not necessarily that he's like actively thinking like what's the right thing to do in the situation. That's just his natural instinct.
He doesn't. As much as he loves food and stuff, like I also don't. It's not done from. Well, I mean, this is just patently obvious when I say it now, but like this isn't done from a place of I'm going to get a reward for being good. It's just a natural thing or something like that. Because like for all he knew, if he like they would have still killed him after he covered up Sandersonia's back. Like there wasn't any like reward he thought he was going to get for doing that. Yeah. It's just a natural and internal instinct.
And to further that point, Boa's ability doesn't work on him because he's pure of heart and he doesn't have like lust or like ulterior motives.
Hey, why are you naked? I was hoping for food.
Yeah.
Food in here.
Somebody turned to stone right then.
There's no food here.
All right. Any other thoughts before we move on to the next one?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So moving on to the next part of the cover story, CP9's Independent Report, Volume 28, Defending Our Hometown. CP9 shows up, ready to take on the Navy soldiers.
I love this panel.
Yeah.
I love the silhouettes with like the glowing eyes.
Yeah, they all look like some kind of animal.
Yep.
Fukuro makes a lot more sense to me now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The fact
right.
that it's saying like meant owl, I was always like, this one of these things does not belong, you know. But here we go.
Wait, you say that Fukuro means owl?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. I was actually just wondering what that meant, and it makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah.
Checks out.
Oh wait, is she still the soap sheep?
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
That's great. That's great.
Yup. So good.
That's still one of my favorite panels in all of One Piece. Really, it's just like
Yeah.
I am a sheep or something. What did she say? I don't remember.
But she seemed like such a serious character.
Yeah.
She like does something like that. Okay, moving on to the last chapter of the volume. Chapter 522, Fatal Illness. Hancock will set sail with Luffy tomorrow and tells him to get some rest tonight. Before that, he decides to celebrate with the other citizens in the banquet hall. Everyone is interested in Luffy, and they swarm him, so Marguerite takes him and escapes with him. They go to Granny Neon, who is reading the newspaper. She tells Luffy she has to stay informed as the Empress is one of the 7 warlords, which Luffy didn't realize. She explains Hancock is in danger of losing her title if she doesn't fight in the war against the Whitebeard pirates, who will be fighting the Navy to stop the execution of Porcus the Ace. Luffy didn't know any of this and tells her that Ace is his brother. It will take too long to get to Marineford from here, but Luffy has to help Ace and will have to hold off on reuniting with his crew. Granny Neon says that if Hancock accepts the Navy summons, they may be able to get him to impel down in time, though it would be unlikely to actually get to him in the world's most secure prison. As Luffy and Neon go to ask Hancock if she will help, they inform that the princess has come down with an illness. Nobody can figure out what's wrong, except Neon, who realizes the Snake Princess has fallen in love with Luffy. Luffy asks Hancock if she will help him, to which she replies that she will go wherever he wishes. So that took a turn.
Yeah.
Really? I feel like I saw that coming.
Well, you probably didn't see that going from the first panel of Boa to now.
Yes.
But you probably
Yes.
saw like the progression.
Yeah.
How about we start with John on this one?
There's a lot. I love the everyone grabbing and pulling at Luffy. It's like, why are you all grabbing at me? It's hard. And then they charge at 20 gold for a touch. You're charging them for it. And I love
all
the
the
panel
opportunity.
of like him blown up like a balloon, and somebody's like drawn a face on his giant belly, like the little girl or something. I can only bring this much food with me. Yeah, this is the fun and games have ended once he just learned of where Ace's situation.
Yeah.
I don't. We get another one of Oda's patented graph map things that like show where everything is, and
Yeah, so it shows the relation between like Enies Lobby, the Sabodi Archipelago, and where the Amazon Lily is, and where Impel Down is. Because we see how far he went from Sabaody to get to Amazon Lily. So he went back past Enies Lobby, but now he's like stuck in the Calm Belt. Yeah, but we do see that. Oh, and also like the Navy headquarters Marineford is near the red line where Berjo was. So that's where the war is going to be. But Luffy wants to get to Impel Down, which is on the Calm Belt, at the end of one of the corners of the triangle, where the whirlpool is. That they have the Gates of Justice. So yeah, it's in a pretty secure location, but does point out that there is a possibility that they can maybe make this work.
This is going to be a weird tangent, but for some reason, I assumed that the Florian Triangle, like where Thriller Bark was the area between Navy headquarters, Enies Lobby, and Impel Down. Until I reread this and realized there's a giant whirlpool there. So I guess there are multiple triangular areas, which
a lot of triangles.
Seems obvious now. Especially someone who likes math, but like I don't know why I thought wrong for so long. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity to learn something.
Yeah, it must be between Enies Lobby and Sabaody on the outside, along like the left side there somewhere, but it's just not marked on this map.
So I guess Water 7 is just like far left of Enies Lobby, and Impel Down's even further, which makes sense given the okay. It all makes sense now. Thank you. I can read maps
now. Yeah, Cody, how about you? Like, any other thoughts for this chapter?
I love the party comedy. I love the fact that it's Sweet Pea and then oh, okay. So I think she's like my favorite of Boa's crew, but I keep forgetting her name.
I keep forgetting it too.
But she's awesome. But like the fact that it's those two doing the chopstick thing with Luffy is perfect. There's so many great bits in here. But yeah, it's more of Luffy. I guess Luffy frames it in his own mind as a really selfish thing to do, to go and save Ace, because he apologizes to the crew. But it still is, in a way, like kind of self-sacrificial, because like this whole time he's been like, I need to see my crew. I need to find them. I need to get back to them. So it's very sad and very touching at the same time that this is the circumstance he's in. But also like kind of, I don't know if I'd say awe-inspiring, but I guess very heartwarming that he's able to make such a shift like this. And then
yeah.
And then Granny Nyon is just comedy every time. Every time I see her. Like the fact that she and Luffy are on the same page, which is like, what? She collapsed just now? What? And the love is always a hurricane thing at the end. So funny. So funny. The fact that it's her, Sanderson, and Marigold all just freaking out. I love it.
They've never been in this situation before.
Well, I look forward to the full-fledged romance developing between these two characters and the romance manga that this will soon become. I'm sure this is exactly what will happen.
It's called Romance Dawn for a reason.
Exactly.
Nice.
By the way, I did look up the name of that character. It's Daisy.
Daisy.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of flower names for Amazon Lily.
Checks out. On theme.
And Evan, what are your thoughts on this chapter?
Yeah, I love the panel where Luffy's kind of like, I'm sorry guys, but I've got something to do, and we see like the whole crew kind of on his shoulders there. But yeah, I mean, we all know that once Luffy puts his mind to something, like there is no stopping him. And so I think this was a very hard decision for him to make, but deep down he knows it's the right decision.
Yeah.
So yeah, racing off to prison.
Tonight is
back to
gonna be
Mobile.
a jailbreak.
I do love this moment at the end where Boa clearly falls in love with Luffy, although it does not come as a surprise. It's such a funny romance. I don't know. I don't know what exactly it is. I wonder if it's the fact that Boa always has people fawning over her, and so, well, I mean, there's the obvious reasons, like Luffy, for what Luffy did for Boa in the arena and also to the Celestial Dragon, obviously struck a chord with her. But I wonder if it's kind of like everyone fawns over her and is in love with her beauty, and so with Luffy, she has this opportunity to like win someone over, like actually win somebody over, like for her personality and not for her beauty.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I don't know how well that will be received. We'll see.
Yeah, so it's like ironic that like she could have like anybody that she wants, like to, serve her and like do whatever like she wants and like superficially love her. But when she comes across somebody who she could have like a legitimate connection with, it's somebody who really isn't interested in that.
Yeah.
So, but Luffy is technically the only person really that probably has a good chance to be like, hey, we can actually have like an actual connection here, as opposed to one that like is just like very superficial and like artificial just because of like her nature and her devil fruit. Yeah, so Luffy is just it's kind of like a contradiction that in that way where like she's like the only person that like she probably could fall in love with and can't be with,
You always want what you can't have.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this chapter also does tell us kind of like where we're going from here, because the whole point of the Amazon Lily up to this point has been to be like, we have to get Luffy back to his crew. But now it's like Luffy has another objective that's very pressing. Before, Luffy, when he found out like Ace's life might have been in danger because of the Beaver card, he kind of brushed off like, no, Ace can take care of himself. He'd be offended if like somebody else came to help him out. But now we see Luffy is kind of throwing that aside and it's like, okay, but this is more serious than I thought. I have to help my brother.
His quest log just updated.
Got pressing matters.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just like something that's been building up for quite a while now with this tension. We've been getting like rumblings of like this impending war, and the Seven Lords getting involved here. So yeah, things are starting to escalate.
Yeah, this is super exciting. It's like with all this mention of hockey, like Luffy's powers are increasing. He just picked up a really powerful ally, and now he's heading into the heart of this huge confrontation that could spark a war. Pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah. All right. So, do you guys have any closing thoughts for the chapter or the volume as a whole?
It's another one of the classic. Like, it's kind of, it feels like a shorter one because it is kind of, but it's the classic Luffy goes to new culture, upends entire culture within the span of 24 hours, makes eternal lifelong allies in the span of 24 hours. Like, but it's look, it's a familiar meal. It never stops being tasty, and there's always some new nugget of like ingredient sprinkled in there. Like,
Perfect.
Anybody else?
I guess this read did give me more of an appreciation of I guess where Luffy was at and what Luffy gained from it character wise. Because when I first read it, I think I was just so distracted by the setting and the world building, the lore, that it didn't make me think of, oh, this is just Luffy having to function on his own after so long. And after all these points where we see, okay, the first thing that happens to him, he eats a poisonous mushroom and he almost dies. He can't navigate. He doesn't have Chopper. He even says, "Man, if Chopper was here, we'd be in a great situation." But the thing that Luffy truly has, that is his greatest strength, is his understanding of people and just that magnetic force that draws people to him and lets him understand them. And I thought that it's something I didn't really appreciate about Amazon Lily until this read through.
Yeah. Cool. Evan?
I mean, I feel like I already said it, but Amazon Lily has been a really fun arc. And like I said, I'm really excited to see where this journey leads for Luffy and his new friend, Boa.
Cool. All right, so I'm gonna say let's move into the arc rankings, because some of our thoughts on, because we did wrap up Sabaody at the very beginning of this volume, so I think we also want to talk about that again. But let's go into the ranking parts. That way we can wrap up our thoughts on Sabaody. So let's start with Sean. Sean, do you want to run us through your current rankings?
Yep. So in S tier, I have Arlong Park at the very top, then Alabasta, then Enies Lobby, and that's the ranking in S tier. In A tier, I have from the top Water 7, Skypiea, Bharati, Little Garden, Logetown, Romance Dawn, Syrup Village, Drum Island, Jaya. Then in B tier, I have Orange Town, then Whiskey Peak, then Reverse Mountain, then Long Ring, Longland. I have currently nothing in C tier, and in D tier, I have Thriller Park, based off the incidents of what happened to our dear boy Sanji. And I'm gonna put Sabaody at it's A tier. I really like. I mean, the introduction of the Celestial Dragons is just so, like, I would put it between yeah, honestly, I really like it. I really like, so between Bharati and Little Garden. I still like Bharati a little bit more, but I like it more than Little Garden. The other one's on A tier. That's where I'll put it.
Okay, cool. How about you, Cody?
This is tough. So for my rankings right now, I have S tier. Okay, really S tier, because Tier Maker doesn't want to. Water 7, best arc. That's just where I'm at. Then actual S tier: Baratie, Arlong Park, Enies Lobby, Alabasta. A tier: Drum Island, Thriller Bark, Jaya, Orange Town, Skypiea, Romance Dawn. Then B tier: Syrup Village, Reverse Mountain, Logtown, Longing Longland, Little Garden, and Whiskey Peak. Nothing in C, nothing in D. Yeah, that hasn't even been a concept in my mind, and Sabaody won't be anywhere near C or D. It's so good. It's I've talked about the payoff that Oda started cashing on Amazon Lily, but I think Sabaody was the start of that. It increases the scale of the whole story. The ending is so devastating, and again, I'll say it's one of the parts of the story that's made me cry more than anything else. My favorite character got introduced in it, but I still can't say it's S tier. It's not something that's so groundbreaking, that is so climactic on the level of these other arcs that I've mentioned here. For me, it's going at the top of A tier. The only question for me is whether I put it above or below Drum Island, because this is the problem when we get further into the story. These amazing arcs are a little further back in my memory, so all the details of Drum aren't fresh in my head. But I can remember why I love it so much. But if I think back, and I think back to the emotional resonance of Chopper's flashback and the catharsis of Wapol being beaten, and just how often I think back to Hiruluk's speech and Dalton asking if the same is true of a country, I think the depth of that moment might act. Ah, man, okay. I might reverse this later on. But I think for now, I'm gonna put Drum just like slightly above Sabaody, slightly. So
Okay.
it's so A2E Drum, then Sabaody, then Thriller Bark, then Jaya, Orangetown, Skypiea, Romance Dawn.
Okay. Yeah, and you bring up an
So
interesting
tough.
point because some of these arcs are further back, so it is harder when they're not as like fresh in your mind. So I think it would be interesting if we did like a read through once we've finished the series, and we are able to go through again and see if our thoughts have changed on how we view these arcs. So like they might very well change because mine has changed every time I read through the series.
Mhm.
So yeah, my rankings now are not what I thought they would have been like before I started this.
I might just reread like Drum Island and Sabaody in isolation, one after the other, just to settle this in my mind, because I'm still a little wishy-washy about it. I can't lie to you.
That's fair. All right, no problem. So we'll stick it there for now, but yeah, you reserve the right to change it if your opinion does change. So okay, then how about you, Evan?
All right. My standings are S tier, Alabasta, Arlong Park, Baratier, Skypiea, Enislabi, and Water 7. In A tier, I have Thriller Bark, Drum Island, Little Garden, Log Town, Jaya, Romance Dawn, and Sierra Village. And then in B tier, Long Ring, Long Land, Whiskey Peak, Reverse Mountain, and Orange Town. So for Sabaody, I think I'm in agreement with Sean and Cody, and I definitely am putting it somewhere in A tier. But the question is where. I've really enjoyed Sabaody. I love the idea of this class of like rookie pirates coming up and kind of earning their stripes and all culminating in this singular location. And we get some like great lore, introduction to some really cool new characters, including the Celestial Dragons and like one of the most satisfying punches to date. So I think I'll rank it in A tier after Drum Island, before Little Garden. So it's like kind of in the center of A tier.
Okay, cool.
I think the scale just isn't quite as big as some of the S tier, so I don't know if it's quite an S tier for me, but solid A.
Very nice. Okay, so my current rankings, I have S tier, Alabasta, Enislabi, Arlong Park, Water 7, Jaya, Thriller Bark, Drum Island. A tier, I have Skypiea, Long Ring, Long Land, Baratier, Little Garden. B tier, I have Syrup Village, Logtown, Orangetown, Romance Dawn, Whiskey Peak, Reverse Mountain. I think I'm less conflicted than all of you guys on this. I put Sabaody in S tier between Water 7 and Jaya.
Damn.
Okay.
So I love Sabaody. I think in the same way I love Jaya, but it's like Sabaody is like, I feel like a heightened version of Jaya. So the things I liked about Jaya are the things I liked about Sabaody. Because we get like a sense of like Luffy's peers, and the world, I feel like, opens up a lot in Sabaody with the introduction of the other supernovas. We get more history with Rayleigh. We get such like a deep look at like the current world of the Celestial Dragons and like the slavery aspect and how the world government is corrupt in that way. Like they're overlooking like the atrocities being committed by the Celestial Dragons. So I think there's a lot of topics and themes that are touched upon here that are really interesting. I feel like it does a lot to make the story of One Piece deeper as a whole. But the way it brings back certain things, you know, like the ball stuff, was like a great payoff with the with the Sanji Wanted poster, bringing Hachi back. But then the punch of the Celestial Dragon is it could possibly be my favorite moment of the entire series. It is like so hype, and like I love that moment every single time. And I look forward to it when I see it. Yeah, I feel like going to Sabaody like before my first time through the series, I don't think it had the same impact on me. But when I watched the anime like going through the series, like maybe like 2 years ago. I was watching through Sabaody. Like I was like, man, I forgot like how good this arc was, and I feel like it really stuck with me since then. But yeah, Sabaody, I think is just like it's a top shelf arc, and I think I would put it up there with near Water 7. I would say it deserves to be there.
You're not wrong, Joel.
That's
Yeah.
valid. Yeah.
It's getting so hard to place these.
I've already just changed my rankings again now. I really did, because I was like, wait, no, this,
And then-
think,
And then also,
I'm prepared to after that explanation from Joel.
also though, the fact that the crew gets completely like decimated. Like we've never been in this situation before where Luffy is now completely separated from his crew. Like it was like heartbreaking to see that unfold and just watching all the crew members disappear one by one. I just think there was moments in Sabaody that are unmatched with certain moments like in the rest of the series. I feel like Sabaody just has a lot of these moments that are like really why One Piece is such an amazing story in the way that's being told. It's such a bold move to go in and take away your main cast and leave you with like your main character, but you take away his entire support system and all the characters that you've grown to love over this time period. So that was a very bold move on Oda's part.
Yeah, and the difference in power. It wasn't hard for Kuma to separate that crew. Like that was easy work.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's like we see how much like the strats are like out of their depth.
Yeah,
because like they weren't able to handle like the admiral. When Kizaru showed up.
Reality check.
Again, there's just like so much that happens in Sabaody. I think it's kind of easy to forget how much happens, but there's just so many moments that really, I think, establish like this world in a way that we haven't seen before. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys like were seriously like reevaluating your arcs, or if you want to keep things where they are.
No, I mean I could read out my new one now if you want.
I need to reserve judgment. I can't make any more changes tonight. I need to sleep on this because this is just I'm discombobulated.
All right. Well, Sean, I'll let you go. If you want to just
we'll rapid fire. S tier top. This isn't necessarily influenced by Joel's, but it's a little bit in my own thoughts. And looking at my arc again, and I was like, wait a second. Okay. S tier, very top. Arlong Park, Alabasta, Enies Lobby, still the same. A tier, Water 7, very top. Then Sabaody, right after it. I like it more than Baratier. Then Baratier, then Skypiea, then Little Garden, then Loketown, then Drum Island, then Romance Dawn. Now in B tier, though, is Jaya at the very top of B tier, then Orange Town, then Syrup Village, then Whiskey Peak, then Reverse Mountain, then Longer Long. Nothing in C tier. D tier, Thriller Bark, you know why. So that's
okay.
Yeah, so it's interesting because like I'm not going to change my rankings for now.
Okay.
I'll leave them.
Okay.
But it is interesting how like nostalgia is kind of playing a role in my ranking, because it's like some of these arcs, I haven't read them in a long time, but they still hold like a special place in my heart just because like they introduce a certain character that I really love, or like I have fond memories looking back on them. So it's curious how that kind of changes your perspective on how you're ranking things as you go, because you become like nostalgic on arcs of the past, essentially.
Yeah. And for you, it's also trickier than I think for us because you don't have the context of the whole series. Yeah. So you're going off of your first time through the series. So
right.
We have more familiarity. Even the arcs we've already covered, I feel like we're probably more familiar with them in general because we've experienced them more than once. So for you, like you might be remembering like things that you liked about certain arcs in the past, but then again, like you didn't have like the context of like something like Water 7 or Enies Lobby to know like things that are going to be coming up. So I do think what makes a good One Piece arc becomes more apparent when you have more arcs to look at. So I think it is harder to rank your first time through the series.
Yeah,
that's why I think a new perspective compared to what we can have. That's why I like to have you go first sometimes, but in this case, I know you requested not to.
Yeah, I was just like so caught up on where I wanted to put it, but it is also difficult because this being my first read through, it's like when I look at the series on a whole, I feel like Oda's writing has gotten just like better, exponentially better and better, like on an upward trajectory. And so it's kind of hard to place rank on these arcs as we go. When I really do think like in general, like it's on an upward trajectory and it just keeps getting better and better and better. And I'm really getting into the series and enjoying it more and more as we go. So
Nice.
it's kind of hard to go back and be critical and kind of be like, yes, I do think, some arcs are obviously stronger than other arcs, but it is difficult ranking them.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so I think with that, we can wrap up here. So that will conclude this week's episode of the We Are Reading One Piece podcast. You can find this episode wherever podcasts are found at We're Reading One Piece podcast.buzzsprout.com or on YouTube channel at We're Reading One Piece. This is a spoiler-free channel up to where we record the podcast, so if you're new to the series, you can visit the channel there. You can also find me and this podcast on my YouTube channel at Pirate King Codex for more One Piece content. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can reach us at wearereadingonepiece@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from listeners, so if you're enjoying the show, if you have any suggestions on how we can make it better, just let us know. Next episode, we'll start discussing Volume 54, Unstoppable, but we are going to start splitting up the volumes into 2 episodes, so we'll do a part 1 and part 2, just for the sake of trying to have a more consistent release schedule and for us to be able to focus more on the discussion for the volumes, not feel like we have to rush through them. So I feel like in order to have a better show for you guys, we're going to start splitting up the volumes. We'll slow down our release schedule for the volumes that we're covering, but we're going to try to be more consistent with actually getting episodes out for you guys, so we can get the show out more consistently. But for now, I've been Joel, and I've been joined by Sean.
This has been Sean.
Evan.
Hey, thanks for listening.
And Cody.
Love is a hurricane. I was supposed to
Tony.
my bad got in the way.
Sandersonia, call me. Sandersonia, call me.
Call him.
All right. Well, be sure to bring along all your hopes and dreams, and we'll see you on the next episode.